What is going on, everyone? Dr. Sleep is not quite in theaters. There was an exclusive early screening from Fandango that I decided to watch because why not? I get to see a movie 9 days early and it's a sequel to The Shining. Come on now. You knew I was going to do it. So, as I mentioned, Dr. Sleep, it's a sequel to The Shining, which came out in 1980. And I am a huge fan of The Shining, so I was going to see this anyway, so I figured why not see an early screening. And Doctor Sleep, it being a sequel, it focuses on Danny Torrance, who was the little boy in The Shining, as he meets a young girl years later with similar powers as his, that's called The Shining, and he tries to protect her from a cult known as the True Knot. Again, this being a sequel to The Shining, it had a lot to live up to. I love The Shining. I think it's one of the best horror films and one of the best films in general. How do you top that? How do you top that? Let's find out. So, first and foremost, I have to say right off the bat, Ewan Mcgregor kills it in the lead role as Danny Torrance. He's so nuanced in his character. Like, he doesn't really have that many outbreaks. He's very to himself, and I really liked that. And you really did get a sense of the PTSD and just like the horror that he really did engulf himself into at an early age. And I think that was very interesting, as well as how he dealt with alcoholism and that struggle with it. Very fascinating stuff. Also, shout out to Zane McClurnan. I think I'm saying that probably wrong, but he's in this movie as one of the villains, and he's incredible, I think. I've seen him in like Fargo and Westworld, so to see him in like a big film role like this, really dug it. And obviously this was directed by Mike Flanagan. You'll know him from the TV show The Haunting of Hill House. He also directed Hush, Oculus, Ouija 2. So he's a director that is very much so well known in the horror filmmaking world. He also wrote the movie, and I think his directing is solid stuff. I'll get into that in the negatives too, but for now I'll say that it's solid stuff with what he does. I think the score is really good by the Newton brothers. I love it because it sounds like a heartbeat. Like, throughout the movie, whenever there's the score, it sounds like a heartbeat. And it almost makes you as the viewer feel like your heart's beating because of what's going on screen. I really thought that was effective. The visual effects also I thought was solid stuff. I was impressed because during certain death scenes of like characters, I think I'm not going to say who, this is a spoiler-free review, but during certain death scenes, the way certain characters like melt with like the makeup, I don't know if it was makeup or CGI, regardless, it was good stuff. I'm assuming it was CGI, but it was pretty good stuff. Don't know if it will age well, but for now, I thought it was solid stuff. The color palette of the cinematography, I thought was really well done. Mike Flanagan has his own cinematography palette, I feel like. Like, when you watch one of his movies, you know it's one of his movies. And I like that he has that signature style because it really is pretty cool stuff. Especially with the blue hues and the cinematography of, it's great stuff. Just watch the movie and you'll see what I'm talking about. Also, I really liked there's an action set piece towards the end of the movie. Was not expecting that, but it was very effective. And the events that occurred during the action scene as well as what happened after, really awesome stuff. The final act also is easily, I think, probably I'd say the best part of the movie. It builds to something that I think is very satisfying and unique with what, well, I don't want to say unique because it's very similar to Halloween 2018, Skyfall, and I'm assuming it's going to be similar to the new Terminator. But it does this thing that it's kind of like going back to your roots, and you saw it in the trailer. But how they do it, I think, is very unique in its approach. That it's enough to where it's like, okay, I can say that you stand on your own, even if it's not wholesomely original. It's still good stuff with what you're dealing with. So yeah, I liked a lot of this movie, but I'm not gonna lie, there were certain things I wasn't the biggest fan of. You know, from a technical aspect, yeah, it's fine, it's solid stuff, and you know, there were some entertainment aspects, but right off the bat, I'm gonna say Rebecca Ferguson's character, I personally wasn't the biggest fan of. It was very hammy, I felt like sometimes the way she delivered lines, it was convincing because, you know, it's supposed to be kind of over the top. But I didn't really want an over-the-top, you know, person, you know, as a villain. Like, maybe that's just a preference thing, but I kind of wish that she was more, like, serious, like I was able to take her more seriously. And I think that's why I liked her sidekick, McClurnan, you know, obviously the guy from Fargo and Westworld, because his character I felt like I was able to take more seriously because he was very menacing. Rebecca Ferguson's character really wasn't that menacing to me, personally. Also, I didn't like how this movie, it took me a long time to get into the movie. Like, I'd say a good 45 minutes to an hour. And it's not that the movie's bad. It's just that, like, when you watch The Shining, it's a very simple premise, just directed very, very well. But Dr. Sleep focuses on so many different plot threads that by the time you're done with the first act, you're like, okay, some of this I like, some of it I don't like. And that's how I personally watched the movie. I was like, some of this I like, some of these characters and their arcs I like, and then others I don't. And that's why I think I like how this movie progressed into something that felt more organic as it went on. But at the very beginning, it did feel a bit bumpy for me and disjointed. And I was kind of like, oh no, this isn't going to be good, is it? But thankfully, it picked itself up by the bootstraps by the end, and it made for effective entertainment. But again, I felt like it was disjointed in the first act or so. Also didn't like Rebecca Ferguson's character for the most part. But there's also something else, and this is definitely a preference thing, and maybe it's just a Stanley Kubrick fanboy in me, but there are a lot of scenes that they either reshot or did in a continuation of The Shining where they used actors that are playing characters that you know and love. And I'm not going to say which characters, but they play them, and the actors, they look kind of like them, but I kind of wish that they didn't film those scenes because as a Stanley Kubrick fan of The Shining, you know these characters. Like, you know what they look like, you know how they talk and how they act. And so to see someone else play them in like a different movie that is also trying to be a sequel, it just kind of felt wrong. You know, like I kind of wish that they did like a Blade Runner 2049 effect where they did Rachel, where they recreated her. I think that would have worked a lot better. I know it would have been more expensive, but honestly, I think that would have worked better because Dr. Sleep, I think, would have benefited a lot more with that than having new actors play them, even though you can you can blatantly tell that those aren't the actual actors that were in the original movies. So, and it stinks because, again, I personally wish, and again, I know it's a preference thing, but I wish that they didn't do that. I wish they kind of took that out, especially since certain scenes kind of beat you over the head already with certain things that characters have problems with, where it's like flashbacks where it's like showing that like Danny has like alcoholism. And it's like, okay, we get it. Because in the modern day times, you can literally visually see that and even physically see that during certain scenes. So I just kind of wish that they cut out certain scenes involving, like, again, redoing certain things. So that's just my preference, though. In the end, though, Dr. Sleep, I know I kind of went on a rant in the negatives. Overall, I do think it's an enjoyable movie. I do want to rewatch it because I'm kind of curious to see if that first act will get better upon rewatching. But for now, I think it is an enjoyable movie. It's not a great film the way The Shining is, but I do think it's a movie that is well worth checking out. And it's unique enough to where it's able to stand on its own, whilst at the same time being able to respect the original The Shining as well as the book The Shining. And I think that in the end of the day, I think that this will be a crowd-pleasing movie that will please many fans and fanboys alike. And me personally, Dr. Sleep, I'll be giving it a 3.5 out of 5 star rating, which, if it was like a hot sauce rating, it's the good old Texas Pete hot sauce rating. Rock solid movie for a rock solid hot sauce. So, again, that's my thoughts on Dr. Sleep. What did you think about Dr. Sleep, though? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And how does it compare to The Shining? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, don't forget the subscription, notification bell, and I'll catch you guys later.